manager with a personality, and I am back with another video. I want to thank you guys for joining me this morning. I pray you had an excellent holiday season here, and that God is truly working on you and blessing you the way that He has been blessing me. I am so excited to just dive back in where we left off when it came to the fiery furnace experience. The fiery furnace experience. And you guys, excuse me, I do have my little one with me in a different capacity this morning. So if you hear her, see her, whatever the case may be, let's still get what the Lord has for us this morning, right? So in just breaking apart this fiery furnace experience, the Lord had put in my spirit to ask Him for the fiery furnace experience as I was really dealing with the conversations in my head, the negativity in my head, the things on replay and on repeat in my head, and how I can walk through this process of renewing my mind, my heart, and my soul in certain areas. And it seems to be like every couple seasons I come back to these conversation in my head, and this season God broke it apart for me in a way completely different than He had before. And this time He used the fiery furnace experience in order to do that. And man, we were breaking that apart last time. If you missed it, if you did not see it, please, please, please go back and hear that, listen to that, and allow God to work on your heart. But essentially, in asking God for the fiery furnace experience, I was trying to skip the line, right? I was trying to say, okay, Lord, I understand what you mean, Lord. I want to come out, unscathed. I want to come out, and not be harmed or touched. But the Lord stopped me and He prompted me so I did not miss the process, right? Because it's important that in all of this, we do not miss the process. And I want to pause here and remind you, we are in Daniel 3, but I want to remind you, my only job is to prompt you. My only job is to put out there what the Lord put in me so you can go back to His feet. So you can go back and say, Lord, how does this apply to me? What are you doing in me? Allow the Lord to make the revelations in you that He needs to make in you. If not, you're just here for my cliff notes of my life, right? You're here for the cliff notes of my life. And who wants to do that? We all want to make sure that we are wholeheartedly going after the purpose and the plan for God in our own lives, right? So in not skipping this process of the fiery furnace, He made me back up, right? And He made us look at and evaluate first off the position. He wants to make sure that we understand that when it came to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they would have never even been called. They would have never even been tested had they not been in position, right? Nebuchadnezzar called all the officials forth. He called all the people in places of authority forth for this golden calf, for this golden statue dedication. He called all the officials forward. So it was important for us to understand, because a lot of times, especially if we're in business, if we're in positions of authority in our household, positions of authority at our jobs, or whatever the case may be, whatever title you feel like you have, whatever position you think that you have, sometimes we think that our position, our title, where we at, that it somehow excludes us from tests and trials. Where the Lord is showing us is that it is the quite opposite, that it doesn't exclude us from tests and trials. It actually sets us up for the very thing that we think we're exempt from, right? It sets us up for the test. So the first thing was position. The second thing was the place, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was called to the place that they will be tested. They were called to the place. So sometimes we are in the perfect position and the perfect place to be tested. But here's the thing that God was dealing with me on and finishing in me just as I was mulling over it, to make sure that not only do we understand the position, not only do we understand the place, but man, we need to understand the participation. We need to understand the roles of participation. What part do you play in the story? And when the Lord prompted me on that, I said, Lord, what do you mean? What part do you play in the story? And we need to make sure we look at this at multiple levels in our lives. Because what's attached to the part that you play is extremely important. And in this particular story, of course, there are multiple roles and multiple parts. There's 3 separate parts the Lord wants us to look at, right? He wants us to look at Nebuchadnezzar, the one who made the order. Nebuchadnezzar was the one who made the order. So in our own lives, we need to look at what we are doing, how we are doing it, especially when we are in roles of positions and authority. If we're head of household, if we're head at our job, if we're managers, if we're supervisors, if we're whatever the case may be, if we are in whatever position to make an order, to make the decision, we need to evaluate our hearts, evaluate our motives, and look at the things that we are putting into play. We must evaluate the things that we are putting into play. So that's 1, the one who made the order. 2 is the ones who carried out the order. Right? Are we going about life just following the crowd? Yes, there is a need to know and understand how to lead and also how to follow. But are we blindly following the crowd? Are we blindly following culture? Are we blindly following orders just because it comes from someone who seems to have stature, who seems to have authority, who seems to have influence? Are we just following every which way that the wind blows? Are we just following every direction that other people are going just because that's the way that they are going? We have to evaluate, are we the ones carrying out the orders? And the reason why that is important, is because from this story of the fiery furnace, the ones who carried out the order did not see how the story ended. Why? Because when they went to go take Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the fiery furnace, they followed the order. They made it 7 times hotter, which means they are making somebody's life miserable. Whether it's you or somebody in your life, the ones who carry out the order, they are making your life miserable. They are making it 7 times worse than what it needs to be. They're talking about you. They're backbiting your name. They're scandalizing. They're doing all of these things. They're setting you up in some cases. They're the ones carrying out the order. But before they could even see how the story ends, they were burned up. It's important to know and understand that. And that's why we as believers, as followers of Christ, we are not concerned. We are not concerned. Because we know that depending on the role that you play, the Lord will take care of us. The Lord will take care of us. So the ones who carried out the orders didn't even get to see how the story ended because they were burned up. And then there are ones who are like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're the ones who refuse any order that doesn't come from God. They're the ones that refuse any order that does not come from God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were given one opportunity, not just one opportunity, they were given a second opportunity. Even though Nebuchadnezzar said, anybody who doesn't bow immediately, I'm throwing them in the fiery furnace. He's like, wait a minute, these suckers really didn't bow. You have the nerve to challenge me? You have the nerve to defy me? You didn't even bow. I'm going to give you a second opportunity to defy your God. I'm going to give you a second opportunity. And as a matter of fact, this is what is important. Thank you, Holy Spirit. It is not just the fact that they didn't bow, because Nebuchadnezzar says, hey, look, I didn't tell you to completely disown your God. I didn't tell you to do that. I didn't tell you to say that your God doesn't exist. I just asked you to include my God with yours. I just asked you to line them up, to give my God the same worship you give yours. And that part is important because Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego says it will not be so for any reason. Our God is God. And they refused any order that did not come from God, regardless of the consequence. And it's important that we evaluate in our lives the roles that we play because of the ultimate goal. When you stand up for yourself, when you stand up and you know what God has told you to do and given you to do, and you know your God is God, when you stand up, you win souls. Your inability to compromise, it wins souls. Your ability to say it with your chest, it wins souls. It wins souls. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego says, look, we know our God is going to do it. We know that he's going to save us. There is no reason for us to even argue with you about this matter. We know he's going to do it, but even if he doesn't, we will not serve your God. We will not defile him. And that part is important, and we need to sit right there sometimes. We need to sit right there at the brink where it says, even if he doesn't. And we need to evaluate our own lives and see, where are we at with that statement? Where are we at with that statement that says, even if he doesn't, God is still God. Even if he doesn't, he still rules and he still reigns. Too often, we treat God like some sort of genie. Like we can just make some magic wish and he's going to grant our every command. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Like if we just say some magic words that God would just do what it is that we want. God, we're not that smart. We're not that smart. We know what we want, but not what we need. We know what we want, but not what we need. We do not believe in magic. Newsflash, we don't believe in magic. Right? We believe in the divine nature and order of God. This is his gig. We just play a part in it. And the sooner we realize that, the better. The better. So even when it comes to those conversations in our head about ourselves and what we say and all of those things, we need to stand 10 toes down, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Look, even if it is true, God is still God. Even if it is true, God doesn't miss. Even if it is true, you are witnessing God's perfection on display. Hear me when I say this, and this is how God settled in my spirit. God is multifaceted. He's multifaceted. And until we wrap our heads around that, we will never truly appreciate the true nature of God and in turn, his creation. Ourselves. We'll never appreciate it. Until we recognize that God is multifaceted. Truly think about that. The fact that we were each made in his image. And you think about how different, what a different combination each individual brings. To think that we would have to sit and get to know, even if we sat and got to know each and every person on earth individually, we still would not know the true and full nature of God. He's God. He's God. God is like experiencing the sun and the rain, like feeling the breeze and the hurricane. He is God. And that's why at times it's hard for us to understand that God is love and he is justice. And he's all wrapped up into one. And when we understand that, we'll understand when it comes to ourselves, when we're looking at ourselves and trying to compare ourselves, because we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to anybody. But your expression is no greater than my expression of him. But we should treat it with the honor and the dignity of knowing that we are an expression of him. That's what God put on my spirit for today. And I want you guys to chew on that. I want you to let him marinate that for yourself and ask him in your own life, what does that look like? What does that look like? Because for me, it looks like starting to treat myself like I truly do carry a piece of the image of God. Can you imagine saying some of the things you say about yourself? Can you imagine saying those things about God? You have spit in his face by some of the thoughts and ideals that we have about ourselves. We are his creation and we are made in his image, and it's time that we start treating ourselves as such. Go back to Father. Start looking through the lenses that he created you through. Y'all take what you need and get on about your business. I'll see y'all soon.